She sat nervously at the tiny corner table of a bustling cafe, clutching her wallet so tightly her knuckles turned white. Inside was only $5 crumpled, all she could afford for this blind date her best friend had begged her to go on. She told herself it would be fine. Just coffee. Just conversation. Nothing fancy. But as she glanced around at the couples ordering lattes, pastries, and sandwiches, her chest tightened. Would her date notice how broke she was? Would he laugh at her? A tall man entered, scanning the cafe until his eyes landed on her. She forced a smile. This had to be him. But as soon as he sat down, his phone buzzed. His face lit up, not with excitement for her, but for whatever was on that screen. Within minutes, his voice was cold, his tone dismissive. "You know, I expected someone different," he said, barely looking up. Then, with a fake excuse about an urgent meeting, he walked out, leaving her sitting alone, her $5 burning in her hand like a cruel reminder of what she didn't have. Across the room, a man in a suit with tired eyes had been watching everything. He was there with a little girl, maybe 6 years old, who giggled over a cupcake. She tugged at his sleeve and whispered, "Daddy, that lady looks sad." He glanced again at the young woman, sitting with her shoulders slumped, trying to hide her embarrassment. Something in her expression struck him. Loneliness. Dignity. Quiet strength. He knew that look all too well. He had worn it years ago, when he was just a broke college kid trying to make ends meet. He got up, walked to her table, and smiled kindly. "Excuse me. I couldn't help but notice your date left. Would you like to join us? My daughter insists we share this cupcake, but I think she'd be happier if you helped." The young woman hesitated, embarrassed. But the little girl waved eagerly, her innocent smile breaking down every wall. Slowly, she sat with them. They talked. She admitted she only had $5 and had been too ashamed to order more. Instead of pity, the man simply nodded. "You know," he said softly, "I had only $5 once, too. I thought life would always be that way. Turns out, sometimes life surprises you." His daughter leaned over and whispered, "My daddy runs a big company now." The woman laughed, thinking it was a child's exaggeration. But when the waitress addressed him by name, her eyes widened. She knew the name, he was the CEO of a company people admired. And yet, here he was sharing cupcakes and kindness like it cost nothing. For the first time that night, she felt seen. Valued. Not because of what she had, but because of who she was. As they said goodbye, the little girl hugged her tightly. The man slipped a card into her hand. "Not for business," he said gently, "but in case you'd ever like to talk again. Sometimes the right people come into your life when you least expect it." She walked home that night with her $5 still in her wallet, but with something priceless in her heart. Because in a world that often judges by wealth or status, she had discovered the truth: kindness is the greatest currency of all. She couldn't sleep that night. She kept replaying the moment the man's daughter had hugged her so tightly, as if they had known each other forever. And his words, "Sometimes the right people come into your life when you least expect it," echoed in her mind like a song that wouldn't leave. The next morning, she pulled out the small business card he had slipped into her hand. It wasn't flashy, just his name, number, and nothing more. She smiled to herself. Most people would brag about wealth or status, but he hadn't. He had just been kind. Days passed. She debated whether to call. What if he thought she wanted something from him? What if he was just being polite? Her pride told her to stay quiet. But her heart told her otherwise. One evening, her phone buzzed with an unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. "Hi. It's me," the warm voice said. "I just wanted to ask, did you ever spend that $5? She laughed for the first time in days. "No. Still tucked in my wallet." "Good," he replied. "Because my daughter insists we buy you another cupcake. She said one wasn't enough." She felt her throat tighten, tears stinging her eyes. Not because of the cupcake, but because someone had remembered her. Someone cared enough to call. When they met again, it wasn't at a fancy restaurant or some expensive place. It was at the same cafe. The little girl ran to her with open arms, and this time, she didn't feel like an outsider. She felt like she belonged. As the evening went on, she noticed something different about him. Beneath the polished suit and quiet confidence was a man who carried his own scars. He spoke about losing his wife years ago, about raising his daughter alone, about the nights he questioned whether success meant anything if he had no one to share it with. She listened, not with judgment, but with the same dignity she had always carried in her own struggles. And in that moment, he realized something: her presence, her humility, her strength, was worth more than all the boardrooms and business deals he had ever known. Weeks turned into months. What began with $5 and a broken blind date grew into something far greater. She became a constant in their lives, not out of need, but out of love. She brought laughter to his home, comfort to his daughter, and warmth to a man who had thought his heart was too tired to hope again.